We honor the beloved dead within this beautiful sacred space of antiquity, of time, of tears and laughter and memories.
So hi, this is Scott Harney from Esoteric Guides, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Laurie Bizzarro, the High Priestess of the Temple of Hecate, Inc. As a leader in the contemporary witchcraft and pagan community, Laurie is both a spiritual guide and an advocate for reclaiming the ancient mysteries of Hecate, goddess of crossroads, magic, and transformation. Through ritual, community, and teaching, Laurie has helped bring Hecatean devotion into the heart of modern urban witchcraft, bridging the gap between timeless esoteric wisdom and the demands of modern life in New York City. So today we'll explore her path, the role of the Temple of Hecate, as well as the temple's upcoming Spring Equinox public ritual at the Niagara Bar on Sunday, March 23rd, which should be a fascinating event. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Laurie Bizzarro, a high priestess of the temple and founder of the Temple of Hecate, Inc. Hi, Laurie. How are you doing?
Hey, how are you, Scott? Nice to see you.
Yeah, great to see you again. Yeah, it's an honor to be interviewing you. I know we've been planning this for a while, and it's great to. But I think it really coincides with this wonderful ritual next Sunday at Niagara Bar. It should be very fascinating. You're going to do a ritual in a bar, and that's going to be from 3 to 6. Tell us a little bit about how that came about. It's Jesse Marlin's bar, isn't it?
It is, and we are so fortunate that one of our priests and one of our oldest members and co-board member, Vinny Apple, we call him the father drum in the community because he loves to participate and drum in most of our circles. And we've honored to know him, I guess, for 3 or 4 decades. Vinny's been a part of the community and a part of the punk community too. So he is very good friends with Jesse, and he did ask him if we could use the space and see if we could bring the community together in a celebratory way and also help, promote, which, doesn't need promotion. Jesse Malin is very well known, but we thought it would be a good arrangement for both of us to bring the communities together. So here we are, and we're excited for the ritual on Sunday.
Look forward to that. Yeah, it's going to be very unique and open to the public. So, yeah, it should be a great time. Really, really looking forward to that.
Yes, anybody's welcome. Even non-practitioners who are curious, who want to get to know us, pagans, witches, New Agers, anyone. We welcome anyone to come and share the energy. I think right now, given the time in history in the world, not just our country, but the world, I think a lot of people are unsure and disheartened. And this ritual on the equinox is for rebirth. It's for renewal, rebirth, healing, and for us to come together and unite and elevate our spirits.
Yeah, beautiful. So I'm really interested in learning more about your path and your background and how you were first called to Hecate and what led you to found the Temple of Hecate, Inc. So, yeah, I know you have a fascinating story. So, yeah, I'd like you to share it with our viewers.
So, around 2001, right after the towers fell, a lot of things happened in my life. I got a divorce, and I needed. So I think that we all, in this magical community, we start out in a mundane way, telling this story of how we found the craft, and then, of course, the craft being this wonderful, unique, truly magical experience. The story always turns into this journey as if we're in some movie or something. So mine did. It was started out like an ordinary day. I was looking for a dog walker and got some referrals of a woman in the neighborhood in Bay Ridge where I lived. And this woman showed up, and she looked like a spooky Cher. That's how I would describe her, with long black hair and lots of jewelry and amulets, all in black, imposing character. She walked through my doorway and she said, "You have so many spirits here. How do you live with them?" And I said, "Well, And I answered her just as I would answer anyone. I said, I like them. They keep me company. So she made kind of a face at me and was taken back and said, are you a witch? And I said, well, I hadn't thought about it. I'm not sure. She said, well, I have a coven in the neighborhood and I'd like you to join us. So I did. And I believe it was the dark moon. And I showed up at her house late because, I'm late everywhere except for court. That's the only place I'm not late. I think I save it up. I save up all my ability to be on time for court. So I knock on the door, and her son, who I would describe as a younger lurch, answered the door, very imposing and dour, not saying much. And I said, hi, I'm here for the ritual. And he pointed upstairs. And the woman who eventually became my mentor had a 3-story, a large Victorian 1800s style house, beautiful, in Bay Ridge. And at his direction, I walked up 3 flights to the top floor. I saw a closed door, and knocked on it. And my future mentor opened door smiling with her hand raised in salute with the athame. Lights were out. It was pitch black except for candlelight here and there, and I could see bodies in there. People couldn't discern who they were. And I entered into that doorway, and I entered into a practice that has spanned, 24 years now, and I haven't looked back, and I love it. I love being a witch. I love being a priestess. I love the community. I do practice solo, of course. I think we all should daily, but really I feel that magic can be so powerful in a group. And she was a Hecate devotee and priestess. She initiated and elevated me into what we call the Crossroads tradition. Wiccans of the Crossroads was a group that I led downstate, and she moved upstate and led Witches of the Crossroads. They were sister covens. And I did that, let's see, I would say that in 2006, I achieved 2nd degree in that tradition. In 2008, 2009, I achieved 3rd degree in that tradition. And I led the Wiccans of the Crossroads for some time. I started a grove called Enchanted Crossroads Grove. But I began to see that and wonder why every religion has a home. They have a physical brick and mortar that's substantial, that receives large donations so that it can run efficiently. And I looked at our community, the witches, pagans, etc., and we really don't. At that time, we didn't have any temples to actually physically go to. The Catholic Church has churches where you could, at any time, day or night, you could go into the church, you could seek counsel, you could seek comfort, you could seek food, shelter, sanctuary. And we don't have that in our community. We have space we rent here and there. We have people who gather in their homes. And traditionally, I think witchcraft, has always been like this secret. But now is the time for us to be out in the open. We're recognized by the federal government. Wicca is recognized as a religion by our United States government. I have concerns about the current administration, but I can get into that another time. So it dawned on me. It's why don't we have a beautiful, massive temple like they did back in the day in ancient times? So that is why I decided to form the Temple of Hecate, Inc. We incorporated as a not-for-profit and with the state of New York in 2014. We're working on our federal status. We host since before that time, but as of I think it was July of 2014, we made the announcement that we were official temple. We have 24 inner court members, and we welcome people to check us out. We conduct open rituals. twice monthly on the new and full dark/new full moon. We also, for our private inner court, we host classes, which are free of charge. I don't charge my people anything. Every Monday we meet. So our open rituals are the Monday closest to the new and full moon. We've created such a beautiful family of priests who are devoted to Hecate, but our coven is very unique in that while Hecate is our primary patron, our primary goddess, we honor all the gods and goddesses of multiple pantheons. And Lady Rhea, who is my beloved mentor at this point and for over a decade, she has taught me a lot about Eddie Basinski, who is a New York father of witchcraft, modern witchcraft. And he used to say that we should be the priest of the streets. So the temple's honor of multiple gods and goddesses, of any pantheon, of any tradition, the ATRs even, any tradition we bring in, not just Greek and not just Hecate, comes from the fact that we are a society of all these beautiful cultures and traditions and people who have needs and wants and want to honor their ancestors and want to honor their culture. So we didn't want to limit ourselves, and we didn't think Hecate would want us to limit ourselves to, just one culture and one tradition. So we welcome all to join. We invoke, if you come to our ritual, you can see we invoke many gods and goddesses as part of our ritual, and I believe it brings this fullness to the experience. And we welcome you, and we would like to get to know you. So whoever is interested, please come. Don't be shy. Check us out. There's no commitment, and we actually prefer to get to know people before we accept them into the temple. My only requirement for people, actually, it's two requirements. One is that you give the time. So you're consistent. You come every Monday. If you're in the temple and you're learning, I ask that you come every Monday, because that continuity of experience and of exchange of experience creates a strong family. And we are a strong family. We have our differences. We love each other. We have our differences. We talk them through. And then the second rule is that I don't accept people who want to cause strife into the temple. I'm kind of like the axe man that way. If I see that someone wants to be cruel, especially wants to behave in a way that's discriminatory, wants to harass people, we don't do sexual exploitation here. I've thrown people out very fast for any kind of hint of sexual harassment. I won't tolerate that. We are a body of people who respect each other. So I require that whoever comes into the temple abides by that rule and gives proper respect to everyone and represents the temple in a way and treats everyone else in the general public or those seekers who come to us in a way with respect. So we've built this beautiful community, and I'm excited to share it with everyone. We're working on getting our brick and mortar. We're working on some of the legal issues associated with that. And New York is an interesting place to try and get a church together. There are rules and regulations for that. But we love what we do, and that's apparent from when you watch us conduct our rituals and when you see how we interact. You could tell that we really love what we do.
Yeah, and I've been to some of your public rituals, including the one in Staten Island that we're going to show later in the cemetery, which was the Samhain ritual, which was really, really powerful.
We honor the beloved dead within this beautiful sacred space of antiquity, of time, of tears and laughter and memories. Those who we honor within this space, we're breathing and living and loving and grieving and living the life. And then now they lay in the earth and they become once again the earth. Their spirits and souls and their essence remain behind, and we do them honor this event of Samhain.
Really well done. So many people see Hecate as the goddess of the crossroads and witchcraft. Could you share some of your personal experiences with her deeper mysteries?
Wow. Well, Hecate transformed my life completely. So the moment that I was brought into that coven in 2001, I learned a depth of devotion that I did not think I ever had in me. I had been a Catholic, and I was a serious Catholic at times. I took my confirmation very seriously as a teenager. I ascribed to a lot of their beliefs at the time, but then I became a lapsed Catholic. I mean, I went to college. My mind started opening. I felt that the religion didn't accommodate or did not really jive with the ideas that I was starting to learn and the openness that I was starting to see in my own life and mine. And so when I walked through that door in my old mentor's house and started that journey, a lot of people talk about Hecate not really being this like very gentle God who, gently takes your hand and allows you the space and time to grow. They talk about her kind of catapulting you into this journey of change. The crossroads signify change. They're that juncture where you make a choice. And I think that Hecate is an instrumental goddess in everyone's life who chooses to honor her. And when she calls to you, whether you choose it or not, to make the best change that you can to elevate yourself and your life. She does not suffer fools gladly, I feel like. I think while she's compassionate, as we know through the mythos and through our personal experience with her, our own personal gnosis with her, she is a loving and benevolent mother, but she also is a taskmaster. She expects you to choose the best path for yourself that is the best for your life. And that's not easy. It's not easy, as I think all of us know who've been through, they call it what, the dark night of the soul or shadow work. Leveling up isn't easy. And it requires everyone to take some inventory. It requires everyone to be honest with themselves. It requires personal pain and change and loss. So my own Hecate is everything to me. She's my mother. I wouldn't take the time that I do to have a temple to her and work as the high priestess. And I say work because it is work. It's work. I think if you talk to most people who priests in our community, regardless of the tradition, it's work and it's time, but I do it all in her honor. There are moments where I sit there exhausted or having a bad day and I say, oh gosh, like, what am I doing? And then I say, well, I do it for her. And that's it. That's the simple and profound answer. My own personal practice, I do think, if you're asking what I do daily for myself to enhance my connection with her, I speak to her. And I do that through the use of mantra, daily ritual. I speak to not only her, but to other gods. She's, of course, the primary and foremost god. I have incorporated, I should say, Jason Miller's mantra from his course into my practice, which I love. It gives you, I also amend it. I don't practice it exactly as he's advertised it or taught it, but I think he'd be okay with that because what he would like you to do is just get the connection with the goddess and do that on a daily basis. So I speak to her, I honor her and I speak to her on a daily basis. I also honor my ancestors and other deities on a daily basis. It's part of meditative work. And I think that it's a good place for start. If people are looking for a place to start, there's two things I would I would suggest that they do. One is to read Sarita de Este's work. She has a few books on Hecate. And I don't think as of yet there's an author who has compiled a complete and exhaustive history of the goddess Hecate like Sarita has. So I suggest people do that. I also suggest that you talk to her and listen. You quiet your mind and you hear what she has to say. And she will talk to you. I think if you're... The other thing about Hecate, which I should add, and I've heard from multiple people that this is the case, she comes to you in a physical form at times too. There are signs. She'll give you signs, definitely. I don't know if you have to look for them. I think she's a very, she's a goddess who leaves no room for doubt in what her message is most of the time. So,
excuse me, what do you mean by physical form? That's fascinating.
So one of the first few years that I began honoring her and attending the ritual in Bay Ridge in my old mentor's home, I was getting flowers and stuff. I was heading to the grocery store to get flowers and whatever else I needed for the ritual, whatever I had been asked to get and bring, whatever offering. And I was in like a weird place. I won't say doubts, but I'm one of those people who, when I commit fully. And then until I can commit fully, I think a lot about it. I want to make sure that I am 100% in something. And once I am, it's kind of hard to get me out of it. So I was really battling with relinquishing old beliefs and ideas. I found that converting or going from being a monotheistic practitioner in a Catholic religion to polytheistic, honoring gods and goddesses, was tough. Not tough, challenging to rewire my brain to accommodate that. And I wanted to make sure I was devoted. I wanted to really, like, it was a pivotal moment, that moment where I went, I'm thinking of all this as I'm running to the grocery store, getting the ritual. And there was a woman behind me in line as I was waiting to pay. And she was like, if you could say, the epitome of the crone. Typically Hecate in ancient times was not a crone. She was a maiden. But in modern times, she has acquired, one of her images is that of the crone. So this little old lady, all in black little, kerchief, little black shoes. She was tiny, gnarled face and hands, beautiful crone behind me. And I noticed that she was taking out a little tissue with change in it to pay. And it just kind of evoked something in me. And I said to the cashier, please put her items on my tab. So the older woman, the crone, kind of looked at me, nodded her head, and I nodded back. And I went to leave. And the next thing I know, I had this very bizarre moment where I was almost like tripping, it just like everything became I was dizzy. I became a little like, what's happening in this moment? And oddly, the crone was outside and in front of me, and she had been behind me. And I kind of looked at her in this moment of upheaval. There was like a little bit of spiritual upheaval for the moment. And the crone kind of like looked at me and then gave this big grin, a smile of like knowing. And I really felt that at the time that was, and still do, that was the personification of Hecate. And it was a message that I was exactly where I was meant to be, and that this path was the correct path. So that's what I mean about a physical representation of Hecate. And I think that if we look closely at our world and the people that we engage with, we can find that the gods are with us all the time. I think, spiritual beings, angels are with us all the time. I think we just have to recognize who we're coming to face with and what the message is.
Yeah, that's it. That's interesting. I mean, I can see that happen in New York. I'm sure there's lots of gods and goddesses walking amongst us, right? And
I think so. Yeah.
So this also begs the question now, how does someone know that they're being called by Hecate to work with her?
Well, I think that when any god calls you, you'll start to see like this kind of kismety, serendipity kind of coincidences that occur. You'll see either things that are very sacred to them pop up, like Hera and peacocks, or, was it Zeus and eagles? You'll see images, creatures, people, words, numbers that are sacred to the gods that come up and that are prevalent in your life. You'll get a feeling or a sensation if you listen to it. It'll evoke an emotion or a very strong sensation in you. Your life will start to change. Things will happen. Your life will get better. Things will happen that are complex or bold. I mean, it's a reading of, it's your own personal gnosis. It's your own personal read of what message you're receiving. And people know, when I talk to people, the temple runs the Hecate study group with a bunch of really great people in the community, many different moderators like Jason Miller, Jack Grail, Jeff Collins, Sarita D'Este, Jennifer Texiera, Jade Soluna also helps to run the group, Matt Oren, Hugo, who's in our temple, and myself. We're also running the group. And often we have like 12,000 people in that group. And people ask this question all the time. And then we read the answers. We see the answers that people give. And the gods really will come to you. They seek you out. Sarita D'Este and I spoke about this, and we spoke about how it seems like most of us started to really en masse gravitate to Hecate around 2001. And that was a common phenomena for a lot of us, that date and time period. And we felt that she had called to us. And so Sarita and I were wondering if the gods themselves have this plan. They see what's happening within the world, and then they know that they want, and the world needs to have priesthood that honor them, that there's going to be a need for that this call that is satisfied with this call, with the calling. So I think the best way for people to know if they are compatible with a god or if they're being called is to first learn about them. See what the history and the mythos say about these gods. Learn what their correspondences are. Learn what they are the god of what things are sacred to them and how they were honored in the past. And then I think that a ritual to honor them and speaking to them. I don't think for the most part that gods are these furious, exclusive, line, when you get in a club, you wait in line and there's the rope. I don't think they're velvet rope kind of people, gods. I think they're accessible. But I also think that you have to be compatible with the god that you're honoring, and especially the god that you're invoking, because you're channeling them, so to speak. You're giving them access to you and your body, and they're speaking through you. So you have to be compatible with them. But I don't think that they're these like exclusive, frightening beings. So I think the best way to get to know a god and to know if you have a calling is to start to work with them and see what happens. See what messages you get. See what people suddenly pop up in your life. See what direction your life takes. If you start to honor Zeus and you get a promotion and a raise, a substantial raise, then maybe you're on the right path, So I would take it easy. I would be respectful, and I would learn. Just learn and do. I'm big on doing. I love for the people in my temple to just like soak it in. Just pick up a book. Just do a ritual, even if you're afraid of it, even if you falter, even if like you stutter, just do it. Just get into it. Get your fingers into it. And that's the way, I think that's the best way to learn, is by doing.
What are some of the symbols of Hecate that people should look? I know that the key is one, but maybe you can explain a little bit about the symbol.
Right. Okay, so the dog, a lot of her followers talk about, I can talk about what's personal gnosis, modern personal gnosis of many of her followers, ancient times. There are many sources of what's sacred to her. So in ancient times, they do talk about how they used to sacrifice black dogs to her. In the mythos, we find that she's in certain stories, the few stories we have about her, she took pity on I believe it was a god. One of the gods got angry at somebody, turned them into a black dog. She took, pity on the dog, and it became her companion. So black dogs. There are keys, crossroads, liminal spaces, so the edge of town, or the water's edge. These are sacred to her. Subterranean places beneath the earth. Well, she also, but the number 3, there's so much to talk about. I could probably go on for hours about it, but the number 3, and related to that, in one of the mythos, Zeus, it is said that Zeus honored her in the, heavens, the earth, and then they say the sea, but I take that to mean the underworld. So in 3 different places, in all 3 realms, she's honored. Let's see, the color saffron. Baneful herbs, what they call baneful herbs, poisonous herbs, are sacred. Belladonna. Let's see, what else? I grow a ton of her plants in the backyard. It's like I can't get enough of them. Yew is sacred to her. Oak is sacred to her. A more modern construct, I see a lot of people talking about dandelion being sacred to her. And I think that's a more modern, time period part of the community who says the dandelions, which I always found interesting. Oh gosh, let's see. Daggers, torches. Let's see. Jason Miller, and I've also heard this in other places, talk about her torches of mercy and severity, which I love. I love that presentation. Gosh, the image of the maiden, for sure, with the 2 torches, is one of the earliest representations of Hecate. Let's see. Oh, the colors black, saffron, red, white. I believe that the red and white are more modern correspondences of hers. Let's see. The dark moon, Depnon, her feast days. Most of them are more modern inventions, but I think that they're just as sacred. Let's see. November 16th, August 13th, the 30th day of every month. She has many. She has very many correspondences and items that are sacred to her, so that if you wish to honor her, there's no. She has 3 million epithets out there. Matt Arn compiled a list, which is really a great resource to have, but there's like hundreds of them. She's associated with life. She's associated with cutting the cord when the child is born. She is associated, she's a psychopomp. She's there when you take your last breath. She's called Sotiera, and there's a whole body of literature of her as the Sotiera savior, and the Chaldean oracles, Chaldean oracles, and an analysis of her role in that. She's not just like a one-off goddess. She's really been discussed and honored throughout time. We're talking about the Anatolian desert. We're talking about, Turkey and the Middle East, and there's this journey of her and her progression of worship. There's her remaining temple that we know of. I may I may have misspoken. I think there's a few actually temples, ancient temples, the ruins of which are still available to be viewed. I believe one is in Rome, but I have to check on that. But definitely there is her temple in Legina, which is on the western coast of Turkey. One of her primary temples, she was the primary goddess of that temple. I have yet to go there, and that's a journey I want to take. Let's see. Yeah, there's so many things that are sacred to Hecate. Snakes are sacred to Hecate. And the more you get to know about her, the more you see. Deer, I've heard deer are sacred to her. I know about a few of these things personally because, now my whole life, is centered around these messages from her, those that are sacred to her. I go in the forest in Staten Island. I always see the deer. I don't know if you've seen some of the videos I post where they're like almost talking to me. I have this rapport. It's wonderful. It's a beautiful life to honor her, and to have a magical life is to have a full life for me, I feel.
How does she show up in other cultures? I know Jade Saw Luna used to work with Kali, for instance, and then Kali, which can be seen almost as an analog. What's your feelings about that? It sort of pushed him to Hecate, right? So,
Right. Yeah. I mean, everybody's experience is different. I honor her alongside of other deities from other pantheons and other cultures. I feel my own personal gnosis, my own personal experience with her is that she is fine with that. I have altars where she's the primary deity. I have deities from other cultures and pantheons on the altar. When I do my mantra work, I speak to Hecate as well as many gods and goddesses, and she's fine with that. There's a lot of controversy as to whether some of these other gods and other cultures are related to Hecate. There are experts who say no, and there's experts who say yes. And I don't really have a horse in that race. I honor her along with other gods, and I feel that she's fine with sharing space with other gods. But yes, there's an argument that there are other gods like Kali that are another representation of Hecate in another culture. Certainly, there's a lot of literature on Diana Hecate, on the threefold Hecate, Persephone, Demeter. There's a lot of literature. There are invocations in the PGM that invoke Hecate and other gods in a similar manner. They're all mentioned at once, so there's some discussion as to whether those gods are another representation of Hecate and why they're mentioned there. So there's a discussion in a body of literature, and again, all I can say from my own personal experience is that I do honor her with other deities from different cultures, and I feel like there's no problem. There's no issue with that.
So tell me about your ultimate vision for the temple. Like if you had the funding, and I know you're working on funding, what is your absolute vision for the temple in New York City and abroad?
Right. So our vision for the temple is to have a space that rivals like St. Patrick's or any large cathedral or temple. We would be open 24 hours. We would have priesthood who would live there. We would have an educational system. We would be sanctuary for people who needed it. We would provide food, hopefully shelter, and most importantly, a beautiful space for people to come worship the gods. A dedicated and beautiful and noble and magnificent space for the people to come honor the gods. and Hecate being primary, but again, all the gods and goddesses would be worshipped and honored there as well. And our goal is to start in New York City. We want to branch out to other places, but we'd have to build in New York City first. And I think it could be done. I have a whole plan on how it's going to be done. And I think being a lawyer helps me to achieve that goal. Certainly, if I don't have that area of expertise, I have colleagues who do, and it's a vision of mine, and it will come to fruition. We're starting to see, once the Temple of Hecate was formed in 2014, we're already starting to see other people who are trying to achieve a similar goal. And I think it's really cool. I love to see her honored everywhere. There's a man in Bulgaria, I think, who has a temple space. There's people in other parts of the United States who are trying to create like dedicated spaces. It's awesome. I think that the gods need to be honored. It's time. It's time for us. And oddly, with all the burgeoning temples that are very public, and with the media, making witchcraft become more notable and prevalent and out, we have this current administration, which is a little frightening. But I still stand by saying we should be out, and we should be proud, and we should be as much of a force to be reckoned with as any religious organization, whether it be Catholic or Jewish or Hindu, etc. So that's my plan, is to have a dedicated space beginning in New York City. I'd like it to be in Midtown. So the goal is to purchase or have donated to us a space within Midtown Manhattan, maybe an old church or temple, maybe a newer type of space. We'll see.
So, well, speaking of public rituals, we have Sunday's ritual, which is a Spring Equinox torches of light and illumination.
Yes.
The temple for public celebration ritual to cast out the present darkness and bring light to the shadows. So yeah, like say the public is invited to this. So should they bring anything, or how should they prepare for this particular ritual?
If people want to bring flowers, they're like, I don't know, incense, it's fine. Any other kind of offering, something that's sacred to them, they want to bring on the altar, put on the altar, that's fine. So we are because, they should just bring themselves and whatever they want to bring as an offering, and just come with an open mind. So if someone is watching this and they're not pagan or witch, they're still invited. We welcome people to come and learn about us. Knowledge is power, and I think that's what unites us, is learning more about each other. And I think sacred energy doesn't belong to any one group. And if someone finds that they need some healing, or they want a safe space, or they want to check it out, we're all for it. So we're looking forward. I'm looking forward to see who comes. We do have a requirement, the 2-drink requirement, because the bar is being kind enough to let us have their space for a few hours. So I'd like to have people, support the bar and tip your bartenders. And it's a $10 suggested donation to the temple, and we'll collect that at some point.
That's great. Look forward to it. That's going to be fun. And the ritual, so it's going to be 3 to 6. And what time would the ritual be approximately?
Probably like 4:30 at the halfway mark. Yeah. I'll give people a chance I like to give people a chance to file in. Yeah. I don't exclude people if they're late. We cut them in anyway, so it's okay. Especially for public rituals, you have no control over that. It's a phenomenon that occurs.
Event. Yeah, so looking forward to. Well, thank you very much for the interview, and
thank you.
I look forward to the event, and it's great to see you again, Laurie.
It's great to see you again too, Scott.
Okay. Blessings.